Eleanor's world gleams with the sheen of privilege-polished marble floors, silk drapes that catch the morning light, and laughter that echoes from lavish halls filled with guests who speak in polite half-truths. From birth, she has been wrapped in luxury, raised in a home where appearances matter more than emotions, and where worth is measured in possessions rather than purpose. Her family's name commands respect, their fortune ensures admiration, and she has been taught that perfection is not just desirable, it's required. Among her many possessions, one stands out, a gold heirloom, an ornate locket passed down from her grandmother. It symbolizes legacy and status, but to Eleanor, it feels heavier than its weight suggests, an emblem of the life she never chose but must uphold. To outsiders, Eleanor's existence is enviable. She lives in a mansion, wears gowns tailored by the finest hands, and attends grand gatherings where her smile, though rehearsed, dazzles. Yet beneath the flawless facade lies a hollow ache, a quiet, unspoken loneliness that luxury cannot soothe. Her days blur together in predictability, charity luncheons, afternoon teas, and meaningless conversations that orbit around wealth, fashion, and gossip. Each morning, she wakes with the same thought, is this all there is? The walls of her golden home, once symbols of comfort, now resemble the bars of a cage. Though gilded and gleaming, they confine her spirit, keeping her tethered to expectations she never questioned. Despite her grace and composure, subtle cracks begin to show. When she looks into the mirror, she no longer sees beauty reflected back but a stranger shaped by obligation. The smile she wears feels forced, the compliments she receives feel hollow. Even the gold heirloom, once a source of pride, has become a constant reminder of her entrapment. It glows brilliantly against her skin but burns like guilt, whispering of generations who lived for reputation rather than happiness. She often catches herself staring at it in the quiet moments, wondering what freedom would feel like, freedom from duty, from image, from the suffocating need to please everyone but herself. Though her life is filled with abundance, Eleanor senses a deep void. Her relationships are shallow, her marriage or engagement, if one exists, more strategic than affectionate. Her friends are companions of convenience, bonded by social circles rather than shared dreams. At night, when the lights dim and the laughter fades, she listens to the stillness and feels the weight of her loneliness settle over her like silk, soft but suffocating. She dreams not of jewels or estates but of wind in her hair, of honest laughter, of the simple joy of being seen for who she truly is. The first whisper of change comes quietly, as it often does. Perhaps it's a chance encounter, a fleeting meeting with someone who lives without the armor of wealth, someone whose authenticity pierces through her numbness. Or perhaps it's a small moment of realization, the sight of a servant's child laughing freely in the garden, or the discovery of an old diary that speaks of love unbound by status. Whatever the catalyst, it awakens something long dormant within her, a yearning not for more, but for different. The carefully constructed life she's always known begins to feel unbearable. She starts to notice the hypocrisy in her surroundings, the performative kindness, the shallow affection, the way wealth shields truth. This growing sense of dissatisfaction becomes impossible to ignore. Her golden cage, once glittering and safe, now gleams mockingly, a symbol of everything she's lost in her pursuit of perfection. Eleanor realizes that while her family's gold has bought her comfort, it has stolen her freedom. And so begins the stirring of rebellion, not loud or impulsive, but quiet and resolute, the stillness before Eleanor dares to break free. It is the story of a woman who has everything the world admires yet feels empty inside, of a soul suffocated by luxury but yearning for authenticity. This moment marks the beginning of her awakening, the point where she starts to question the gilded world around her and the role she was forced to play within it. The cage may still be closed, but now, for the first time, she sees the lock and dreams of the key. When Eleanor steps away from the polished world of chandeliers and velvet gowns, she does so not with a grand plan, but with a restless ache in her heart. The golden cage of her former life has become unbearable, its luxury suffocating rather than comforting. Seeking clarity or perhaps escape, she decides to travel west, far from the social salons and judgmental whispers that have defined her existence. Her journey begins as a temporary reprieve, a convenient excuse to oversee an investment or survey land holdings, the kind of respectable venture society approves of. Yet deep down, she knows it's more than that. The West calls to her like a whisper carried on the wind, wild, unpredictable, and promising something her world of refinement never could. Freedom. As the train carries her across the shifting landscape, Eleanor feels the transformation begin. The manicured estates give way to open plains. The smell of perfume and polished silver is replaced by the raw scent of dust, sagebrush, and sunlight. The horizon stretches endlessly, untamed and inviting. Every mile takes her farther from expectation and closer to herself. When she finally arrives, a small, rugged frontier town framed by red rock and golden fields, she feels both terrified and alive. The streets are rough, the people unpolished, and the life here is dictated not by wealth, but by grit. For the first time, her fine dresses and delicate manners feel out of place. Relics of a world that no longer defines her. It is in this wild new setting that she meets Jed, a rancher, or perhaps a drifter with a quiet strength about him. Sunburned skin, calloused hands, and eyes the color of storm clouds, he stands as the very embodiment of the West itself, free, self-reliant, and untamed. Where Eleanor's world was built on appearances, his is built on survival. He speaks little, but his words carry weight. There's an honesty in his presence, a steadiness that disarms her. He lives by his own code, guided by instinct and integrity rather than reputation or inheritance. To Eleanor, he represents everything she's been denied: freedom without fear, purpose without pretense. Their first meeting is anything but graceful. She might stumble from her carriage, her silk dress collecting dust, while Jed watches with a mix of amusement and curiosity. To him, she seems fragile, too polished for this hard land. To her, he seems impossibly unrefined, rough in speech, blunt in manner. Yet beneath the awkwardness lies fascination. She's intrigued by his quiet confidence, by the way he treats everyone with the same respect, regardless of station. He, in turn, is drawn to her poise, her determination to stand tall even when the world around her feels alien. Their conversations are cautious at first. She asks questions about the land, the people, the life out here. He answers simply, his gaze sharp but not unkind. Slowly, the tension between their worlds gives way to curiosity. Days stretch into weeks, and their paths continue to cross. Perhaps she invests in a ranch or takes up residence nearby, eager to learn a life that demands both strength and humility. Jed becomes her unexpected guide to the ways of the frontier, teaching her how to ride, how to navigate the land, how to endure without complaint. With each lesson, the distance between them narrows. She learns that freedom is not chaos, but courage. That simplicity can hold more beauty than all the gold she once prized. Their connection deepens quietly, like water wearing down stone. The air between them hums with unspoken understanding. When their eyes meet, there's a spark neither can ignore, a pull that transcends class, upbringing, and expectation. For the first time, Eleanor feels truly seen, not as a symbol of wealth, but as a woman of substance and will. And Jed, though cautious, begins to realize that beneath her polished exterior lies a fire that matches his own, the refined and the rugged, the caged and the free. It is the story of Eleanor's first step toward transformation, where the West becomes not just a place, but a state of being. Through her encounter with Jed, she begins to rediscover herself, no longer the perfect daughter of society, but a woman daring to listen to the whisper of the wind, to chase the horizon, and to find the kind of life and love that cannot be bought or controlled. Every story of transformation reaches a moment of truth, a point when must decide what truly matters. For Eleanor, that moment comes under the relentless sun of the West, far from the glittering halls of her upbringing. The days of delicate manners and empty luxuries are behind her, but her heart still carries the weight of her old world bound in one gleaming symbol, the golden heirloom. Once, it represented security, lineage, and prestige, a mark of the family name and all its suffocating expectations. But as her connection to Jed deepens and the rhythms of frontier life reshape her spirit, that object begins to feel more like a chain than a treasure. The turning point arrives suddenly, as all great reckonings do. Perhaps a crisis strikes, the ranch faces ruin, the town suffers from drought, or Jed himself is in peril. Whatever the circumstance, it demands sacrifice, not of comfort but of identity. Eleanor stands at the crossroads between her past and her future, her choice is illuminated by both love and loss. In the face of this crisis, the woman who once measured worth by gold and status now sees value in courage, loyalty, and the fragile yet fierce bond she's built with Jed. It's in this crucible of hardship that her affection for him and for the life he represents is tested. She's no longer the pampered heiress who sought adventure for novelty's sake. The dust on her hands, the calluses forming where silk gloves once rested, the raw sincerity in her eyes all bear witness to the woman she's become. She knows that staying by Yet's side means embracing a world of uncertainty. There will be no grand estates or glittering soirees, no safety net woven from her family's fortune. Yet, in his steadfast gaze and the unspoken understanding between them, she finds a peace she never knew existed. When the moment comes, the gold heirloom gleams in her palm, heavy, beautiful, and hollow. Maybe it's a necklace or a family brooch, once worn by generations of women who never strayed from their assigned paths. To Eleanor, it carries the voices of that world. Be proper. Be obedient. Be one of us. But she's no longer willing to listen. The decision crystallizes with painful clarity. Trading the heirloom whether to save Yet's life, secure the ranch's future, or simply to sever herself from the past, becomes an act far greater than material exchange. As she hands over the heirloom, perhaps to a trader, a banker, or even directly to Jed, the gesture holds immense symbolic weight. It's not a transaction. It's a transformation. The gold that once defined her existence now serves a higher purpose. Its gleam no longer blinds her to what matters. In giving it up, she is not losing value but reclaiming it on her own terms. The act feels like shedding a second skin, freeing herself from the expectations that once bound her soul. Tears may well in her eyes, not out of regret, but because of the sheer magnitude of what she's choosing. This sacrifice isn't measured in wealth, but in self-realization. For the first time, Eleanor truly understands what it means to give from the heart, to trade not for profit, but for love and authenticity. In that single, breathtaking moment, she steps fully into her new identity. Not the daughter of privilege, but a woman of purpose. Jed, witnessing this act, grasps its meaning without words. To him, the heirloom is just metal and shine, but he knows what it represents to her. Her choice to let it go speaks louder than any confession could. It's her declaration not just of love for him, but of faith in the life they can build together. What began as an escape from luxury becomes a pilgrimage toward truth. In relinquishing her golden past, she embraces a richer present, one forged from love, integrity, and the quiet power of self-determination. The heirloom may be gone, but its absence gleams brighter than gold, illuminating the unshakable truth that the greatest treasures are not held in the hand, But in the hard dot and the quiet days that follow Eleanor's great sacrifice, something shifts profoundly within her. The golden heirloom, once the symbol of her lineage, her confinement, and her supposed worth, is gone. Yet, in its absence, she feels lighter, freer, and somehow more whole. What she traded away in gold, she has gained tenfold in love and authenticity. The West, with its raw edges and unpolished truths, has stripped her of illusion and left behind only what's real. And standing at the heart of that reality is Jed, a man whose strength doesn't come from wealth, but from endurance, compassion, and quiet constancy. The immediate aftermath of her sacrifice isn't grand or dramatic. There are no cheers, no applause, no acknowledgement from society. Instead, there's a silent, shared understanding between her and Jed, a depth of emotion that words can't quite reach. When she looks at him now, she no longer sees a man of the frontier, roughened by hardship and sun. She sees her equal, her partner, her compass. The bond between them deepens, not through declarations, but through the small, steadfast gestures of daily life. The way he offers her his jacket when the desert wind grows cold, or how she tends to his wounds after a long day of work. Each act of care, each shared glance, is a thread weaving them closer together. Their life together takes on a rhythm that feels both humble and extraordinary. Gone are the lavish dinners and glittering parties that once defined Eleanor's existence. In their place are simple meals shared under an open sky, freshly baked bread, beans simmering over a fire, laughter carried on the evening breeze. Sometimes they ride together across the plains, the golden light of sunset painting the world in hues that no jewel could match. She learns to mend fences, gather water, and find beauty in labor. The satisfaction of a hard day's work, side by side with Jed, fills her heart in a way opulence never could. There's an authenticity in their life that Eleanor had never known. When the rain pours through the roof of their modest cabin, they patch it together, laughing at the absurdity of it all. When money runs short, they find creative ways to make do, bartering, helping neighbors, sharing what little they have. Yet, even in these struggles, there's joy. Because for the first time, she isn't living to maintain appearances. She's living to build something real. Their home, though small, echoes with warmth and companionship. Every scar on Yet's hands, every wrinkle in Eleanor's dresses, tells the story of a love not polished by luxury but strengthened by resilience. Through these experiences, Eleanor's perception of wealth transforms completely. She realizes that true richness isn't measured in gold, silk, or reputation. It's found in the quiet moments that fill the soul rather than the purse. Watching Jed work the land, seeing the strength in his every movement, she feels pride not in ownership, but in partnership. The world she once belonged to seems like a distant dream, beautiful, perhaps, but hollow. What she has now is imperfect, unpredictable, but profoundly alive. One evening, as they sit by the fire, she gazes at the stars scattered across the vast western sky. Each one glimmers faintly, distant yet steady, like the hope that once led her here. Jed sits beside her, his hand finding hers with an ease that speaks of familiarity and trust. There's no need for grand gestures or extravagant words. Their silence says everything. In his company, she discovers a form of happiness that isn't fleeting, but deeply rooted, built on shared labor, laughter, and the quiet certainty of love. Eleanor's heart swells with gratitude, not for what she has, but for what she's become. The woman who once lived in a golden cage now breathes freely in a world of dust, wind, and possibility. Her wealth is measured in sunsets and smiles, in the strength of their union, in the peace she feels each morning when she wakes beside him. The West has taken her gilded illusions and given her something infinitely more precious, the understanding that life's greatest riches are found not in possessions, but in love freely given, courageously shared, and deeply lived. In the end, Eleanor's journey from privilege to simplicity becomes a testament to love's transformative power. She has traded jewels for joy, comfort for connection, and status for sincerity. And as she looks toward the horizon, her hands still entwined with Yet's, she knows with absolute certainty she has never been richer. Time has a way of softening the edges of memory, yet some stories remain as vivid as the day they were lived. Eleanor and Yet's love story is one such tale, a quiet, steadfast flame that refuses to fade even as years pass and the world around them changes. What began as a collision of two worlds, her golden, opulent upbringing and his rugged, humble existence, transformed into a union that redefined what it meant to be truly rich. Their legacy endures not because of grandeur or fame, but because of the simple, profound truth it carries, that love born from sacrifice and sincerity is the rarest treasure of all. Eleanor's decision to trade her heirloom, the gleaming symbol of her old life, for something intangible but infinitely more meaningful, marked the beginning of a legacy that would outlive them both. In that single act of surrender, she proved that love is not about possession or privilege, but about choice and devotion. The golden brooch or necklace that once defined her family name was gone, but in its place blossomed something far more enduring, a life built on trust, equality, and resilience. Those who knew Eleanor and Jed often said that there was a light about them, a quiet peace that came not from comfort, but from contentment. Their love did not fade with hardship. Rather, it deepened. Through years of droughts, storms, and seasons of scarcity, their bond held strong. Where others might have faltered, they drew strength from one another. Eleanor's laughter, once polite and restrained, now rang freely through their small homestead. Yet steady presence, once solitary and guarded, became the anchor that grounded their shared dreams. Theirs was not a perfect life, but it was a real one rooted in understanding, forgiveness, and an unspoken promise to weather whatever came their way together. As the years turned, people in nearby towns began to whisper about the lady who gave up gold for love. Some saw her as a romantic ideal, others as a cautionary tale, but Eleanor herself cared little for their opinions. She knew that what she gained was worth far more than what she gave up. Her days were spent nurturing a garden that flourished under her care, teaching children to read beneath the shade of a sycamore, and sharing quiet evenings with Jed, their hands still finding each other in the twilight. Her legacy was not written in ledgers or titles, but in hearts touched by her kindness and courage. When people asked her, in her later years, whether she missed the life she left behind, she would smile softly and reply, "I once thought gold could make life beautiful, but it was love that gave it meaning." That simple truth became the heartbeat of their story, a message that resonated long after they were gone. In the generations that followed, their tale became legend in the small town they once called home. The old ranch house, weathered but standing strong, became a symbol of endurance and love's quiet triumph over circumstance. Visitors would pause by the front porch, where an engraved wooden sign hung with words said to be Eleanor's final reflection: "True wealth isn't held in the hand, but in the heart that dares to give." A reminder that value is not defined by material possession, but by the capacity to love. Selflessly. Eleanor and Yet's story leaves behind more than romance. It leaves behind a philosophy, a way of seeing the world. It challenges the illusion that status or money equate to happiness and invites us instead to measure worth by the quality of our compassion, the depth of our loyalty, and the strength of our connections. As the sun sets over the plains where they once walked hand in hand, the wind seems to whisper their story, a tale of two souls who found eternity not in gold, but in each other. Their enduring legacy is not written in history books, but etched in the timeless truth their love revealed. that some treasures cannot be bought, only found, and that those who find them are, in every sense of the word, truly rich.